Three, two, one, go. All right. So the last time we talked, we were discussing content, but it was all theory. And I know that just drives people nuts when I talk about theory. So today, what we're going to cover are some practical tips for creating content. Now, before we get into that, first, let's talk about who needs to create content. Well, really everybody should. Now, that's full disclosure. I really haven't needed to do that over the years because I've had such a strong network and just because of my personal philosophy about business. For years, people would ask for me to consult or me to come into their business or if I had courses. And I don't. I don't create courses. I don't create info products. And I'll tell you the main reason why is the vast majority of people just don't use them. And the industry knows it, right? So everybody that produces content knows that only about 2% of everybody that they sell the product to is actually going to open it and use it. Now, about 5% will actually open it, but 3% of that 5% don't do anything with it. It's really kind of tragic. And so as a result of that, I feel uncomfortable making money that way. So as a result, because I don't have courses and things out there, it really, doesn't matter that, I've got a bazillion followers. Now, as my personal network has matured and advanced, because obviously I've got gray on my face, I'm finding now that I need to branch out in order to talk to more people. So what I'm doing now is some of what I am telling you to do, but the reason why you don't see that mirrored in my profiles has to do with that whole intro. So let's continue. Creating content is really pretty simple. A lot of people are, I think, baffled by what it takes to create content, mostly because the American school system sucks at teaching writing. So first of all, this is a writing endeavor, right? Writing. And I do mean like handwriting, obviously, but also typing. This is all printed word stuff. And I used to say, hell, I'm a SEO, but everything is video. Yes, and you still need to plan it out. I would dare you to Google, I don't know why I wrote a D, Mr. Beast. And you'll probably need to add like how to or create video or script plan or even just planning. And when you Google that, what you will discover is that, first of all, Mr. Beast, Jimmy, started with thousands of hours of honing his craft, understanding the video itself, the video pacing, and the video planning. What that means is he just doesn't sit down and wing it, right? All of the top creators are the same way. It's planned in some regard. Some are, very detailed scripters for all of their videos. Some, like Casey Neistat, he says sometimes he plans, sometimes he doesn't. He's willing to sit down on occasion and blurt it out. However, what I'll caution you is looking at that and say, well, say all I have to do is sit down and blurt it out. Well, first of all, you're not Casey. Second of all, you haven't done Casey's amount of work. So what's behind all of this is work and honing your craft. Now, I will say, full disclosure, I can sit down and belt videos out. In fact, this video, I've got the barest of outlines. I can do that because I've done probably more videos. I've probably done more videos than most people you will ever run into. Here's why. Now, this is just in the early days. I've done more videos since then, but at the peak of my video creating, I was doing one video every day that the markets were open and trading, the stock markets. That's 220 trading days a year. So that's 220 videos. They were an hour long each. And then on the weekend, the Friday, I would usually do an additional weekly wrap up that was another 90 minutes or so. On top of that, I had this beautiful individual from New York. I think she still is a teacher, who took mercy on me and told me that my videos absolutely sucked. Why? Because there was no plan. Right? As a teacher, she understood lesson plans. Right? So now we're getting into how to create your perpetual content machine. Your perpetual content machine. First of all, you have to start with a plan. Now, in lesson planning, like teaching and instructing, usually you would start out with one thing, the end result. So you need to think about, what do your students need to do? What do you need to see them doing? Right? In school, it might be reciting the multiplication table. It might be reciting the periodic table, or reciting a portion of the periodic table, to give you a throwback to those hateful days of education. It may be something like that. Whatever the context is for you, you need to think about, what is the end state that you want somebody to do. So when I was thinking about this video in particular, it would be create a content outline. Okay, we're just going to talk about the idea of an outline. What do you need to create, and what should that look like? This is going to be really simple. I'm talking about organization. That's it. We're not diving into the actual content you're going to create. We'll do that on another video. We're simply going over how to organize, how to plan, how to create this perpetual content machine. Any writing endeavor needs to have a form that leads into function. The easiest way to do this is with an outline. I think it's because in an outline, you can work in a step-by-step fashion. So let's get into it. First of all, you need to create 3 main headings. What does a main heading mean? Well, it means if you look at a finished outline, right, let's just think about the finished product. You've got something that'll look like this. You got writing, you've got a little space here, you got more writing, you've got another little space here, more writing. You've probably seen this before. And I'm not trying to talk down to you. I just want to make sure if you're watching this and you haven't seen an outline, this is what I'm talking about. Oftentimes you'll see multiple points on one of the subheadings like this, right? So main heading, subheading, and I have to apologize. I honestly don't know what this is called. I've always called it a subheading. That may or may not be the actual title for it. It works for me. Hey, you do you. All right. So main heading, subheading, subheading. What does this mean? And what does it signify? What does it indicate? What does it pull out of your brain and onto the paper? This would be big idea, refined idea, and this would be sub ideas. Did I really spell idea wrong? Okay. Big idea, refined idea, sub idea. Now I'm going to try and do this on the fly. Like I said, I personally just had the sketch of what I was going to do in my mind. I did not create an outline because I wanted to do this live and not have something scripted. So you're going to see me fumble with it on purpose, because I think the internet sucks, because people do all this like 17 million takes, and then they have this perfect video, and you walk away thinking, oh, if I'm going to create an outline, I should just be going bang, 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 bang. And then you sit down and you're like, oh, what? And it takes forever. And you're thinking, man, I just must suck at this. So you quit. So you're going to see me struggle with this, because this is the creative process. Now, I'm not going to do something cheesy like do content idea. We're going to talk about raising capital. Okay. And this could be raising capital for real estate, could be for any sort of acquisition. Why would you want to, and by capital, I mean money, raising money. Momi? Holy moly. Raising, sorry. This is bad. Money, Maseo. Wow. Raising money. So why would you need to raise money? Now, this is an important first step. Right? So just think about, now, again, let me talk about the purpose. My idea for you would be that you would do this exercise while I'm going through it. So I want you to think about content that you want to create, whether it's for your company, whether it's for your personal brand or whatever. And I want you to do this exercise with me. So I've just decided, okay, I want to produce content about raising money or raising capital. Now, here's an important distinction because language does matter. If I were going to more of a hoity-toity professional audience, I would probably title it Raising Capital. If I was going to more regular folks, I would just say Raising Money. If I was talking to a beginner audience, absolutely 100% would say Raising Money. If I was talking to an advanced audience, it would be Raising Capital. So think about that. You can wind up with dual or two pieces of content for every one you produce if you think in this way. Again, what are we doing here? I'm teaching you how to create a perpetual content machine. Raising capital. That's the big idea. Why? Why would I want to do that? So a way to dig into your outline is to ask why or what multiple times. Right now, Sony made it famous. They think they called it their 5 whys. They would ask why 5 times. You could ask what 2 or 3 times is probably all you need to do. So let's start with why. Why would I want to raise capital? Well, to make it generic, it would be to buy stuff. Now you notice, remember back here, we had main heading, right? And then we had the subheading. It's indented a little bit. So you notice I indented. What this shows me, and if you're doing this in Microsoft Word or something like that, or even if you do it in most email programs, one way to do this automatically is if you type a 1 and then you have a space, a lot of times you'll see it automatically move over. That's what's telling you that you're creating an outline. Let me give you a couple of hacks. You may or may not know this. It's like if you're in software, some people use Slack, some Microsoft Word programs, they get kind of funky. Sometimes you may need to hold down the Shift Enter key. Most of the time you do not. If your software doesn't automatically create the outline for you, which it should, just remember the formatting will get funky if you're not careful. But again, most of the time, the software should create the outline for you. Even if you're just using like Apple Notes or, Notepad may not. It's been a long time since I've used that. So you type in the 1, you press the space, the software will automatically move it over for you to create the first main heading. Then every time you hit return, it'll go down here. And a lot of times it'll be an A. Again, depends on your software. Sometimes it's not going to have the A there. It'll be a character, like it'll have a star. Sometimes it'll be a dash. Anyway, you'll see the outline create as you're going through it. Okay, erase all that crap. All right, back to the task at hand. I'm talking about raising capital. You're talking about your thing. That's the big idea. Why am I going to do that? To buy stuff. Well, this is where I would probably transition into a what, because it makes sense. Can you see that? If I said, well, I'm going to raise capital to buy stuff. Well, why? Could I go down that road? Yes. I'll get to that in just, let me mention now while I'm thinking about it. So let's say why, to buy stuff. So this would be, this could be to buy a business because I hate my job. That is really bad. I hate my job because I want diversification. I want passive income. Now, let me back up because I've just done something I did something hidden, right? What I did, because I've got a lot of experience doing this, is I went right to what my market wants. Okay. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, so I talked about real estate, I talked about acquisition. So I'm thinking, okay, if somebody's out there, they're thinking about, man, I wish I could buy more real estate, or I wish I could buy bigger real estate. I just wish I had more money to buy more real estate. Or somebody's thinking these things, man, this job, if I had a business, oh man, I've seen XYZ. And if I could do that, if I could just buy a business, or sorry, not buy a business. If I could just get out of this job, if I just had more passive income, if I could just diversify, right? That's what they're thinking. My content would be to capture somebody's mind who's thinking one of these things and then pull them in, right? So this is results-based thinking. How did I do that? Years of writing copy and years of selling. The most successful copy, the most successful sales presentations deal with the result. They get people thinking in terms of results, not the actual thing. Nobody really wants a business. Nobody really wants real estate. They want the stuff that real estate and businesses give them, which is money. Okay, so I did jump ahead, but I wanted to dissect that and even dissect the process by which those words came out of me onto the page and what those words' purpose is, not only in content, but in the purpose of the content, right? Remember, this is a perpetual machine. So as you train your brain to start thinking in these ways, you will find the amount of content you can create increases, and then the quality of that content will also increase. Okay, hopefully that's clear. If it's not, I don't really read the comments, I gotta be honest with you, but you know how to get a hold of me. Okay, so I'll leave that on the page just so you can get so it stays on the page, because otherwise I'll forget. I know, rewinding. Remember, I went to buy stuff and I said, well, why doesn't really fit? The reason why I thought at first it wouldn't fit was because why, a why question after, well, I'm producing, raising capital. Why would I raise capital to buy stuff? I jumped ahead. Hopefully you can see that. Where I went automatically was lower in the outline. Like I went down here, or maybe even here, right? Where we've got the main heading, subhead, subhead, subhead. We're just like, I really should understand. I'm going to Google it just because I can't keep saying that. So I jumped way down into the outline, which what that means, kind of a foreshadowing, is that the purpose of an outline is to drive to not just what your audience wants, but what's the result that they want. That's the purpose, the highest and best purpose for a content machine. Why is that? Because that's what attracts people. It's the result. Yeah, of course, smut, sex, drugs, gossip, rumors, of course, all of that stuff does attract people as well. But results also attract people. Right? So if somebody is looking at, smut or pornography or something like that, what they probably really want is connection and intimacy and a partner and somebody that they can talk to and that they can trust and who trusts them and they can snuggle, right? I mean, that's probably what they want, but they're settling for something else. Okay. So even in that kind of extreme example, this same concept applies. Now, how can you be sure, like what I just said, like these deeper emotional issues you can connect to? Hopefully, I'm going to spell his name right. Maslow's hierarchy, HEIR. That's not right. Of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Google is a much better speller than I'm. Again, take it easy on me. English is not my first language. But if you Google even that bad spelling there, it will pop up. And what you're going to see, and I don't have the triangle memorized, is a triangle. Supposedly up here, this is more self-actualize. And down here would be more base needs. So down here would be, sex, it would be food, and it would be shelter. Up here would be love, acceptance. As examples. Now, again, I don't have it memorized. If when you go Google it, you'll see what Maslow's actual hierarchy is. But conceptually and directionally, what I just gave you is correct. And so, if you can think about Maslow's needs, like in the background, when you're thinking through the different results-based thinking kinds of things, because it'll give you the emotional connection. Okay, again, I just dove deep. Now let's rewind. I'm going to recap. I apologize because some of you might be driven crazy. Remember, we're talking about an outline. We're talking about how to have a perpetual content machine, which means we need to talk about how you can create content all the time. An outline helps you to organize your thoughts. It also helps your brain to go from big topic, generic topic, to specific emotional need and result that your audience wants. Because nobody likes to create content where nobody's watching it. Okay, in this example, I said I'm going to talk about raising capital, and then I was going to show you my dirty, ugly process of creating outlines. And you're seeing it now. This is actually how I do it. And the highest and best use for this content would be for you to also be doing this. So think about whatever big idea you have. What is it? Write that down, type it out, and then ask yourself why. So if you're going to raise capital, why would you do that? So here we are. So in my first why, it was to buy stuff. And then I went all the way down to the bottom, which let me move this out of the way. The magic of technology. To buy stuff. What am I going to buy? I'm going to go in that direction rather than go to why, which also tells you can interchange the why and the what. To buy stuff, real estate. Now I could ask the what question again, which would be, well, what kind of real estate? And you can even write that down. What kind? Or you could write down what type. Like if you want something to jog your mind, if you're just sitting there like, I got nothing. Well, what kind of real estate? What type of real estate? Or what kind of X? What type of X? X being this thing up here. Well, for me, because I've got experience in the real estate market, you could say multiple or a portfolio of houses. It could be one house. Now we could delve even deeper, right? So as I wrote down one house, my brain immediately popped into mind, or sorry, what my brain immediately started doing was saying, well, what kind of house would you need to go raise money for? Well, and my brain is actually feeding me even more now. So one kind of house would be luxury. Right? So this would be, a $5 million house. Another one would be in the case of bad credit, which is actually a really interesting angle. So what would go at the lower level, let me just dive deep again because my brain gave it to me. Bad credit. So this, and I apologize, my brain serves it up in this finished form. No, that's not the right one. Oh, I said I was going to do it ugly. Raise. So again, that's not going to work because I'm actually starting to think of how would I write the title. And I apologize. I've done this for so long and it's kind of how my brain is made. I jumped to the end. So it would be how to buy a $600,000 house with no credit. That would be one variation. With bad credit, horrible. I'm just going through, again, this is how I create it. You can see it's messy, right? This is all junked up. Now, the reason why I handwrite this, you can see, because if I was doing this on paper, it would look kind of funky. That's why I prefer to do this by hand. And for years, I would do this on paper with scribbles and all kinds of crap. Okay. How to buy. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Because I said I don't like that. How to buy a $600,000 house with no credit, bad credit, horrible credit. We could try with no money. It's never no money. Hopefully you've seen enough of those videos where you realize that's the case. it's going to take somebody's money, but that's kind of the clickbaity title. Okay, so let me pause for a second, kind of reset my brain. So, again, I told you I would, full disclosure. What I just experienced was a little bit of what I perceive as an energy lull. Right. So my experience as I've been going is commonly called a flow state. In other words, I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing. I've got things coming out of me without grinding it. But there's a distinct feeling that I get when that happens. It's not a rush per se, but it really is flow. So it just feels like my brain is flowing. I don't know how else to describe it. It's generally like back here. When I come out of flow, I literally feel like this part of my body, kind of the front part of my brain. I know your brain doesn't feel stuff. Don't get started. But it's like I feel it up here when I'm not in flow. I feel it back here when I'm in flow. I don't know if that means anything. I'm just telling you why I said, okay, let me take a minute. Because I popped out of flow. I'm like, okay, obviously I need to rest my brain. Now, normally speaking, what I would do would be I would grab some water. I would probably like jump onto something else. And I know most people will say, oh, don't do that because of task switching and it's tough to go forward or back. I don't really engage with whatever I'm doing. A lot of times I'll pick up, pick up my phone, I'll get onto YouTube and I'll scroll. Sometimes I'll literally just like lean back and stare up at the ceiling. Of course, rub my eyes, all that stuff. Generally though, I've realized over the years, when that sensation happens, I go from back here to up here. That's when I need to give whatever's going on up here a recharge. Now, if it's in my perception, if it's deep enough, I'll take a full on break. Like I'll get up, I might eat something. Full disclosure, I'm also on a really weird eating plan right now. I've been carnivore for well over a year and a half. But I was still having some weird stuff going on, like eye floaters, and I wasn't as lean. So I'm eating one egg at breakfast, one egg at lunch, which is coming up in like half an hour. Obviously, thinking and doing this kind of stuff, producing a video, writing stuff on the page, like my brain's need for fuel is off the charts. If I had taken some carnitine, which helps the body to like release fat and other stuff, I probably wouldn't be going through this. But I don't want to stop the video because that's really bad, right? If I can get back into flow, but if I completely break flow by stopping everything, that's pretty rough. So again, you're seeing full disclosure, my messy process of producing outlines. So I'm just going to take a break, drinking problem, spill water all over myself. What I'm trying not to do is put like drinking and swallowing noises into the microphone because that as well will drive people nuts. It drives me nuts. Like, again, this is just me being distracted. I'm resetting my brain. Fortunately, I was going to say fortunately, then I was going to say thank God. Fortunately, and thank God, what I'm about to say doesn't affect me as much, but I was one of those people that if I heard people chewing or, oh my gosh, sucking like their fingers, it's like, we're going to fight. We're going to fight, man. We're going to come to blows. You got to stop that. It's not as bad. I don't know how it happened. I'm thankful for it though. Not that I can't really take people chewing, especially like if it's been a long day, I'm in a bad mood, I'm mentally kind of weak. It's like, oh my God, like what my kids are doing is like, I'll make another one of you. Stop it. Okay. I think I'm feeling it. Okay. Brains. Yes. Okay. Good. Now, again, why did I kind of faded out there, checked in, sensation was gone up here. It's like, okay, I can feel it moving back. We're ready to flow. Let's recap. We're talking about an outline. The purpose of the outline is to form our thoughts from the generic to the specific, the generic idea to the specific result our audience wants or desires to have. What we have done is gone from a generic idea of raising capital or raising money up here, up here, to the sub idea, which is the purpose. Remember, we generated the purpose with the why, what questions of buying stuff. Again, you want to stay generic up here. You don't want to try and drive too specific, too quickly, in my opinion. Then we asked another why or what kind of question. Well, what kind of stuff are we going to buy? Real estate. Okay. That's our next subtopic. From there, obviously, we've got another what question. Well, what kind or what type? Again, I offered that as a way if you're stuck at this point, like you really don't know where to go, it would be to get kind of a specific end to the what. So, what kind, what type, instead of just a generic question. Specificity drives innovation, specificity drives inspiration. Specificity. Go away. Sorry, I was undoing stuff. All right. Get it out of the way. There we go. Now, from there, I offered up multifamily. Now, why did I offer that up? Because my brain started to spit stuff out. As you get better harnessing and living in the flow state, you'll find that happens to you as well. The way I experience it oftentimes is a flash of a picture. So when I wrote down what kind or what type, a apartment building flashed into my mind. But at the same time, if you remember, I mentioned, like I started thinking about, well, but would it be one house? Like, and if it was one house, what kind would it be? My brain actually served up the negative. It's like you wouldn't raise money to buy a house. But then another part of my brain said, well, isn't that what getting a loan is? So think about this. We're talking about tangents now. Raising money doesn't necessarily mean going to investors or calling up your mom or your dad or your rich uncle or something like that and saying, hey, I need 500,000 for something. It could be going to a bank, right? So now I'm going to put that over on the side. So bank or banks, friends and family, investors, right? What am I doing? Again, I'm talking, well, we're doing a couple of things. One, I'm hopefully helping out your process by showing you what one creative madman does. So what I just did in my outline, remember, specificity, inspiration, right? What you just saw was inspiration. Because now I've got additional topics, don't I? So let me branch off for a second. Okay, can you do this with me? You can create another outline. Raising money from, you see where I'm going with this? And then this is what I love about the iPad that I couldn't necessarily do with paper. So now what do I have? I've got 1, 2, 3 additional generic headings. So yes, a generic heading could be super generic, like raising money. That's about as top level, right, as meta as you can get. I don't know if you could really go higher than that. Who cares? It works for us. But now what I have is something that's also generic, but not quite as generic as just raising money. You follow me here? Raising money from banks, raising money from friends and family, raising money from investors. Remember, we've got our why what. So because I'm going to have to scroll up, I'm going to put it here just to remind why what. And yes, I would suggest writing why what over and over because specificity is the source of inspiration. Say it with me now. Specificity is the source of inspiration. All right. I also find saying it again helps. I will usually sub-vocalize. If I'm writing this, and if you were watching me write this, you would hear me say, raising money from banks. Okay, why would I want to raise money from a bank? Low interest. Why would I raise money from friends and family? Easier. Why would I raise money from investors? More checks, bigger checks. So what did I just do there? Because I had it all grouped together, I actually was starting to bounce them off of each other and kind of compare it, right? So I was thinking, okay, well, why would I go to a bank over friends and family? Now you could also, oh, wait a minute. So this was bank, again, form and functions. I told you it's going to be messy. I want to say friends and family and capital I. Now that I'm looking at it, you could, now when I write this, so I've got an arrow What that tells me, it's a little symbol I've developed over the years, is those could swap, right? They're interchangeable. Because as I was thinking about it, I thought, well, banks could maybe write a bigger check too than friends and family. I mean, unless you're, one of the Rockefellers or one of the Gettys or something like that, or a Zuckerberg. Certainly not a Buffett, because Warren he didn't give his kids jack squat. So it's definitely not that. But anyway, okay, enough of that. Now, because that's kind of messy and it's not really in the format that I want, which is the indents, because remember, I want the indents to kind of guide my thinking, I'll write it again, but I'll just abbreviate it. Raise, bank, and then down here, it would be low interest, bigger check, then, then friends and family. Now I've got an outline. I've got an outline, and I can repeat this. Now we've been going for a while, but I hopefully have conveyed the basic structure for you that you can then go out and repeat. So let me. I'll add a few parting thoughts, and then I'll leave you to this again. If you want help, if you need something, let me know. You know how to get a hold of me. From here, you can go down to another sub level, right? You could go down here. That might be too much detail. I prefer to stay general like this because in my experience, the content is tighter is the word that I would say. Like it flows better, it's easier to digest, and you're not overwhelming your audience. However, when I've written books, now short story, I do have a mute button, right? Yes. Years ago, when my oldest son, we homeschooled my two older kids, and they went through a writing program called IEW. Highly recommend it, even as an adult, that you go through it. I believe it's called Institute for Excellence in Writing, because it teaches you how to write. It teaches you the process of writing, which they never did in school. School is really kind of crappy. I don't know why anybody puts up with that. Was learning outlines. Oh, it's a waste of time. It's so slow. Why do I have to do this? I hate it. So I made him a bet that in a 5-day period, I could have a book written. How did I do that? Because I won the bet. Monday, I created the outline in the morning. Didn't look at it until Tuesday morning. Looked at it on Tuesday morning, refined a few points. Tuesday afternoon, I recorded videos for each one of the points, sent them off to be transcribed. Wednesday, the transcription was done. Thursday, sent it off to an editor and said, hey, I need this turned around in 24 hours. Don't go into a lot of detail. I just need like the ums and ahs and things like that cleaned up. Obviously today, you could handle this all with AI. Friday afternoon, I had a 200 and I believe it was 27 page book, formatted and everything. The editor delivers like, hey, this is what you wanted. It's messy. No publisher is going to pick it up, but there you go. 5 days to a completed, albeit ugly, 200 plus page book. That's the power of outlines. And I never went lower than the sub head. Part of why I was able to do that, full disclosures, I know what the heck I'm talking about. I've done it for decades. That helps. It's a lot of reps. It's a lot of experience. I've got a lot of stuff to talk about. That's why I can do a 40-minute video on outlines and creating content without sitting down for an hour writing an outline, because I know this stuff. I've done this over and over and over. I just have done it so much that it lives inside of my head. And so as I'm creating content, I will oftentimes do it. I will oftentimes create the outline in my head and then make the content. Full disclosure there. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll try and create a 5 or 10 minute video and I'll take an hour to do it because I didn't sit down and do an outline first. I still fall into the same trap everybody else does. And I can tell you the days where I do a tight, like if I need to create a 5-minute video, which by the way, I challenge you to do that, create a 5-minute video telling somebody something, which obviously like Instagram and TikTok have made that at least somewhat accessible, but those aren't meaningful videos. They don't really communicate much verbally. It's acting, which helps. So if you wanted to verbally communicate something in just a few minutes, you'll realize how difficult this is. Um, Best ones, always outline. I stay tight. I pause the camera, refocus, go one to one point, refocus, like that. So if you do want to use this for short form content and you want that short form content to be very tightly organized, create your outline down to the subhead level, like what we have here. We have heading, subhead, subhead. So go that low. And then because you've got your content set up that way, what you will wind up with are down here. These are going to be short, right? So that would be maybe a TikTok, obviously a reel, obviously a story. I would suggest that here's what I mean. So you have one segment that would be why you would want to go to a bank to raise money, lower interest. Here, and it would be here are 3 ways to get the lowest interest rate with your bank, or here are 4 banks that have great low interest rate programs, or yeah, leave it at that. And then you'd have another segment, which would be why you would want to go to a bank versus friends and family. Well, friends and family generally they're not going to loan a lot, blah blah blah. Banks are in the business. So once you're cutting it up, because it's outlined, you have and if you do a screen share, you have a distinct place in the video where you can either hand it to an editor and say, hey, look for screen changes. That's where I want you to cut things up. I just realized I jumped into something without giving you the direction. Okay. My apologies. Let me back up. What I just dove into was how to have function in the form. What the outline will unlock for you is the perpetual content machine. Remember, in today's age, we're creating video content. Part of the challenge with video content is editing. A lot of it has to do with the breaks in segments. The clearer the break, the easier it is for the editor to make changes. Because I used to edit all my videos, remember, 220 a year, that's where this comes from. Even when I was editing my own videos, it was a challenge for me to figure out where one segment started and ended. I would do all kinds of stuff like this. I would do loud noises so I could see it in the actual audio wave. I would look for the big spikes. Hands down, what works best is on-screen cues. That's why in Hollywood, they actually have the clacker. It goes down, they've got the timer, all of that. If you're going to put something on the screen, tie it into your outline, whatever that might be. I'm a screen share kind of guy. Obviously, like all of my videos have a screen share in them. If you're doing it on the screen, if you're doing it on the iPad, tell your editor to wait for the scroll up or some other kind of video cue. You could do it, like this. Look for the scribble on the side of the screen. Then that person will know there's an edit there. Why is that edit important? Because your outline will generate content based on each heading. This is magical. I waited for the finish. This should probably be the intro, because if you want the secret to creating all the content you ever want and have an editing process that's buttery smooth and doesn't cost you a fortune, this is it. Once you've got your outline, you have your cue at each stage, so the editor knows there's something new to edit there. You provide them your outline and tell them you want short form, so TikTok, Reels, YouTube Story, for each of these subheads. You want a story, reel, and YouTube short for all subheads, subheads, which means if you've got two, those two will flow down here. Then you want a YouTube video for the subhead plus the subheads. And then you want a YouTube video for the heading, subhead, and subheads. Now, here's the beauty. If your outline has multiple groupings, you get multiple YouTube videos, you get multiple shorts, and you get multiple TikToks, Reels, and stories. Hope this one was helpful for you.